a lot of founder-led sales and trying to find potential customers from contacts of contacts and then reaching out on LinkedIn, even asking old friends and old colleagues and everyone that can actually bring a client. So that's how we started. And then for whatever reason, most of those clients were actually in manufacturing, construction. Most of the software companies were not actually pursuing. And that's where we realized that we could actually deliver a higher value rather than going and chasing, small companies or even freelancers, right? So we started to spend a lot of time with customers and understanding a lot their pains and their needs. And that's how we continue to actually have this feedback loop with them and then selling into them.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Ignite podcast. Today, we're thrilled to have Adam Barbera, the CEO and founder of Dost, Team Ignite portfolio company. And fair disclosure, it's an accounts payable co-pilot powered by AI. He has an impressive background in enterprise software analytics and innovation. Adam has dedicated his career to simplifying complex processes for businesses. Dost automates supplier invoice and delivery note management, eliminating these manual efforts, leveraging AI to create efficiency. Let's dive into his journey. Welcome to the program, Adam.
Hi, Brian, and thanks for having me here.
Yeah, it's great to see you again. It's been a long journey. I think we originally spoke probably 2 years ago, and it's funny for the founders listening. Originally passed on Dost. We met Adam and the team, and we're like, okay, this is neat, but this is super early. Stay in touch. And, like a good founder, he stayed in touch and, sent us the monthly updates. And I just kind of kept watching the revenue go up and up and up and up. Like, okay, this is starting to work. He's clearly found something and got some product market fit here. So maybe you could walk us through kind of your background and how you got to founding Dost.
Right. So basically, my background comes from telecom engineering. So I started, in a very technical role, big corporate within the network team, always on the black screen, fixing and doing service implementation. But that really wasn't for me. So I moved quickly to sales and pre-sales, and from there to business development. So I used to work for SAP as an account executive, and then to Tech Data for a more international role. So I was part of the European team, which basically I started more on the sales side, so more like selling solutions to customers across Europe. But then I moved more on what it's called software vendor alliances. So working with the current software vendors in the Tech Data portfolio to help them to leverage the existing markets and solutions to develop new markets or to actually sell solutions into the existing markets. So long story short, is basically go-to-market and business plans, and also recruiting new software vendors. So our background at Tech Data is a large IT distribution company now called TD SYNNEX, which largely works with Microsoft and other big companies. And as part of the AI and analytics team, so we basically were promoting these kind of solutions, right? Also, because of my background in ERPs, so that got me curious into our internal systems at Tech Data, right? So that's when I started to dig out and understand the inefficiencies that the accounts payable team were facing. And therefore, so I started to understand how we could actually help with existing technologies. And obviously, my first approach was to, hey, why don't we do something here, right, internally? And we try to fix it. But TD SYNNEX is not a software company, so a long story short, it was basically a decline, a pass also from their end. That was kind of the first pass, and that's when I decided to quit and start the journey.
Amazing. And then I spoke a little bit about what Dost does, but like maybe what was the aha moment for you guys and kind of the founding of the company? And when did you know you had something that people really, really wanted to buy?
Interesting in the beginning because you could realize that there was a need in the market. People were reacting like, well, there's something that we would like to have, but we have maybe tried some other technologies in the past that probably didn't work out. But then with that little light that you have, right? So we said, hey, let's do it. It seems to be, obviously, if you look at the market, it seems to be a big opportunity. So why don't we give it a chance? And we build from what we learn, improving inefficiencies that we have seen with the softwares in the market, and also with the customer feedback. And then first, for starters, we realized that we could, let's say, easily sell because that's what we have been good at it. But really, when we realized that we had something is when we basically, after let's say 6 to 12 months, customers started to demand a couple of features that no other competitors had or actually have today. And we developed that feature. And then everything started to scale.
Maybe you could describe basically, what Dost does. So we know it uses AI to simplify invoice and delivery note management. But what is that exactly? What is that problem?
Right. So everything starts when you raise a purchase order. So you want to buy something from a supplier, and then you, as a customer, right? So you're going to receive your services or your goods, and you're going to receive an invoice, and then you want to validate that invoice, post it into your accounting ERP, and then pay that invoice, right? So that's a whole process. But within this process, if you are a simple software company, even a scale-up software company or a services company, it's relatively simple. It gets complicated when you are a manufacturing company or a construction company, because the key point here is that you have a high dependency on your suppliers. So if you're a manufacturing company and some goods are not delivered to you, that means that you cannot actually manufacture your products, so you cannot sell, and your business is actually being impacted directly. Right. So these are the most important one, because these are the type of customers that we are targeting, because that's where the big pain is, because typically the biggest amount of purchases, they have to be matched with the invoices and also with the proof of delivery, the delivery notes, right? So this is important, because if you do it for simple processes, for a simple PO and a simple invoice, that's, again, very simple. But if you do it for invoices that may have like 400 pages and POs might be 400 pages as well, and you have thousands and thousands of line items, then that's when it becomes complicated. And if you look at big companies, they even have actually matching departments that they do everything manual, and that's their whole job, right? And that's very, very inefficient, because you lose a lot of control and visibility on what's actually going on in the business, but then everything else is completely manual, right? And any errors are just basically very, very critical, because it's not the problem with the error now. It's actually how impacted will be your business, because you realize that you have an error when you are actually closing the month or closing the quarter or even closing the year, right? So when was that error made and by whom? And how do we fix this now, right? Like 6 months after that.
Walk us through a little bit about how you scaled the business. So you found some product market fit, you found some customers. Walk us through kind of getting those first customers and then going 0 to 1 and then 1 to 10, like you've gotten over the last year.
So first, it was a lot of founder-led sales and trying to find potential customers from contacts, and then reaching out on LinkedIn, even asking old friends and old colleagues and everyone that can actually bring a client. So that's how we started. And then for whatever reason, most of those clients were actually in manufacturing, construction. Most of the software companies were not actually pursuing. And that's where we realized that we could actually deliver a higher value rather than going and chasing, small companies or even freelancers, right? So we started to spend a lot of time with customers and understanding a lot their pains and their needs. And that's how we continue to actually have this feedback loop with them and then selling into them, right? So that brought us to have our initial traction. And then after that, we started to create a small sales team where we started to gather more insights, right? And help us to actually get more traction. And then when we realized that one of the key things for them was actually the relationship with the supplier, the three-way matching, but with everything that you have to check in a completely automated way, thanks to AI, that's when everything clicked, right? And then we said, all right, now we have the right product for the right market. So this product market fit, and then we invested in building a sales machine. So a very structured sales process with a very clear playbook. And then we started to scale that process, that playbook, and the team. And the structure is very, let's say, it's very SaaS traditional, if you like. So we have a market research, that we have a team of SDRs, and then we have account executive. And then it goes to customer success, right? But that's the setup. And the playbook is very clear. And it is actually working for multiple countries already. We have already validated that the model and our playbook, it can scale in any country.
Yeah, I love this. So to sum it up, you came from this industry, you saw the problem, you saw that it was manual, it could be done better with software and AI. You built a SaaS solution, and then you just targeted the ICP, the ideal customer profile inside these organizations with an outbound sales motion, just ran the process. When you guys started building the team, did you build it kind of bottoms up? You have your SDR and then your account exec, or did you start kind of top down?
No, we started with SDRs, and then we were the account execs. And then as we started to have some volume, then we hired the account execs. And then we started to add more SDRs and then more account execs, right? So it has been always
kind of a balancing build pipeline, close pipeline, build pipeline, close pipeline. And you're sort of doing that at both. Are you leveraging any of the new AI tools on kind of building pipeline?
In some way, yes. So we are very fans of cold calling.
So you just cold call the people down there that in accounts payable, and you're just like, hey, you have this problem?
A lot, yeah. And that's actually what works. Yeah, that works.
Yeah.
And I think
because they do, right? You're calling the person who's doing this manual job, and you're like, yeah, I have this problem.
Exactly.
Or the manager of the person who has that problem. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And this works, and it's incredible how effective it is. Right.
That's crazy.
But still, yeah. So we're also using some tools with AI more for market research, putting together the right messaging in email sequences or LinkedIn messages. But when it goes down to outreach, it's very, let's say, traditional in a way, cool and highly personalized emails, even though you can actually get help from the AI tools.
Yeah. So been some of the biggest challenges in developing the AI capabilities on your platform?
Well, I think at the beginning, we face some challenges in terms of whether it's to build or buy kind of thing. So do you use existing technologies like off the shelf, or you actually build it from scratch? And at first we thought that we could combine both, but we realized that we didn't want to have any dependency on any, let's say, proprietary software vendor, right? So then we got down to the open source, and then we started to build everything on our end.
Interesting. So you kind of looked at the cloud offerings out there. You're like, okay, I could use this thing on AWS or Google or whatever, Microsoft Azure. You're like, you know what? There's an open source equivalent of that we can have control over, and we won't have any dependencies. Yeah. And so we create our own destiny. They can't all of a sudden jack the price up by 50% on us, or change the API that, causes us to have a 4-alarm fire drill inside the organization because it broke the entire app. And
exactly. Yeah. I mean, you have full control. You can improve, you can fine tune, you can customize anything. So it's very, very flexible.
How do you think founders should think through that? You kind of chose the side of open source and flexibility. Is there a situation in which you would have done the opposite for founders listening out there that are kind of thinking about this dilemma now?
I think it depends what you're building and who you're targeting, and also how fast you can go. Sometimes it is really about the technology, but sometimes it's just leverage what's available and put it together and just change the business model. So it's really, it's case by case, I would say. But definitely you need to think whether you have a dependency on a third party or you don't. Because I was reading a post on LinkedIn that a guy was sharing that he was about to do this big demo in front of a customer. OpenAI API crashed and he couldn't do it, right? So that's a huge dependency and a big
first
mistake.
Rule of demos, right? Live demos are, something crashes. If he would have been using the open source equivalent like DeepSeek or something, that would have been on him to host it and make sure it's running and all that stuff. Let's talk about team building. I mean, you've been scaling headcount. What strategies have worked for you when it comes to building your team out?
So I think we have been very conscious on hiring and scaling the team, making sure that we don't overhire and then we don't have overheads and we don't spend ton amount of money and people are getting lazy because they don't have enough work to do. If you think about it, we hired team members within sales and marketing at the same time because it's complementing one to another, and also in terms of product. So first we hire more like generalists in terms of product, so someone that can do almost everything, and then we started to have more like specialized roles. So then front end, back end, more on the user interface, the user experience, and so on. And the same goes for sales, right? So at the end of the day, we started only with SDRs, and when we had a pipeline, that I couldn't manage or my co-founder couldn't manage, and we hired account execs. Then when we started to have certain amount of customers that we couldn't manage the onboarding of all of them, then we hired customer success. And now within this last round, we believe that we are at the stage really, really makes sense to have someone dedicated to finance, right? Because that's a really important point within an organization, to have all finances in place and well structured. And so you have everything on track. Also for reporting, but also for yourself internally to know where you are, right? So I've been the CFO, let's say, and it's not my job. I'm not good at it. But if you have someone that is good at it, then you have definitely better visibility on what's going on and when you are, right?
From other founders is you kind of want to do the job that you're going to be hiring for. And then that way you have a sense of kind of the shit that you're giving somebody, that you're about to give someone. And you know how to hire for it and manage it, right? Because eventually, I mean, the buck stops with you as the founder, right? And you eventually have to delegate everything. And so it's better to kind of do that job for a while. I mean, when you're starting out, you're everything. You're the CRO, the CMO, the CPO, you're everything, right?
Yeah.
But slowly you kind of delegate that, right?
Yeah. So now this is the approach, right? So as we keep building, what do we need to get specialized roles?
This episode of the Ignite podcast is brought to you by our friends at Build, spelled BYLDD. Build is a development agency that specializes in helping early stage startups, especially non-technical founders and teams, build and launch scalable revenue generating software products. Most startups don't have $100K to hand over to a big agency, and honestly, for your first product, you probably shouldn't. Sure, you could try rolling the dice on some freelancers, but that's a gamble with unclear costs and a lot of project management headaches and no guarantees. That's where Build comes in. For just $10K in about a month, Build can turn your validated idea into a real product that's ready to go to market. It's a smart, efficient way to build a foundation for a company of any size. And yes, companies that start with Build can and have scaled very large. Their clients have gone on to be backed by YC, Y Combinator, and Google, and raise funding at multi-million-dollar valuations. Ready to get started? Head over to build.com. Again, that's BYLDD, to connect to Ayush and the team and let him know you heard about Build on the Ignite podcast.
What do you think your experience at some of these really large global companies like Tech Data and SAP influenced the way you manage Dost?
Well, I think the good point of actually working for a big corporate company, it's basically the structure and the discipline you get and professional environment. So I mean, if you work for a company such as SAP or Tech Data, you have to have, certain integrity. You have to be professional. Everyone is typically more senior than you. And that gives you structure, that gives you accountability. And also you learn how to treat people, even, with higher ranks. Even at the end of the day, they are people, right? But they have different ranks. So you have to also have some respect with them, right? So this is what is I think that's what I learned from working at these kind of companies.
Yeah. And what do you think some downsides are? Maybe there's a college student out there listening to this podcast right now and they're thinking, hey, should I go take the job with Microsoft or a startup or go start a startup? Like, what do you think some pros and cons are of each of those paths?
I think there is no right answer, right? But it depends. You already have people that they are really, really well structured and very professional. But I think nowadays there should be more understanding on what's, working for someone and understanding, responsibilities and you have to deliver. Because if you work, sometimes it depends what startups, or if you are starting your own, you don't have, let's say, kind of a framework. And it's good to have this initial framework. Still, maybe it's 1 2 years, but I think it's good for you to have this initial framework of the ways of working. Even if you are in there and you don't like it, but still you're going to learn something. You can always learn something from it.
I love that. How do you see AI evolving in this kind of FinOps space over the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, we see it evolving very quickly, and we already have some AI agents and agentic workflows within Dost. And how we believe that this is going to evolve is basically that now it's, let's say, it's semi-automated, right? So we believe that this is going to bring next level automation to software and the way users and companies interact with software. So this is going to change completely. We believe so, and we are on top of that. So we make sure that we have every new, AI model and everything, sometimes just testing. And if it makes sense, then we actually implement it in the product. But definitely will be that at some point you're going to receive an invoice and you will just be there in case anything happens and requires human, attention, right? But otherwise it will just magically flow within the systems, and you will have, at the end of the day, your reporting, your insights, and then you would have this interface where you can actually get, with natural language, all the insights you want.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think a lot of folks out there are screaming, hey, it's the end of SaaS, and it's all agents in the future. And maybe it's true, but I think there's going to be a hybrid period that you're describing where you have agentic workflows and SaaS kind of coexisting. And so your FinOps people that you're selling into that are doing the accounts payable, they'll not just have a SaaS platform or user interface with business logic kind of programmed into like a CRUD database, but agents that can assist them in the actual job that they're trying to accomplish, right? And assist them in creating new workflows on the fly. Hey, you're not doing this correctly. Well, thank you for that. And, the AI will kind of like self-improve recursively in their knowledge base or RAG or prompt engineering,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're already seeing that, if you get some repetitive, let's say, issues within, let's say, finding this XYZ supplier that typically is not sending the invoices with the right purchase order number, or actually without the purchase order number, it will actually tell you, hey, we have this vendor that is actually doing this. Either we assign it automatically based on the purchase order numbers that our system is generating, or we send a message back to the supplier that this is not going to move forward until you fix the problem on your end, right? You can already start seeing this kind of decision-based interactions.
Yeah, and you see platforms out there like Salesforce, going all in on agents. Like, what do you think of Agentforce and them kind of just leaning into that as heavily as possible? And I think Benioff is just really good at branding and sales, but I feel like I bet if we pull up Salesforce marketing from 15 years ago, it was all about like mobile first and mobile this, mobile that. And then it was like cloud this, cloud that, probably before that or around the same time. And it was AI for a while with Einstein, and now it's all Agentforce. Like, maybe you could comment on kind of the evolution of SaaS and kind of all that stuff.
Well, I think there's going to be a transition, but it's not going to be all AI agent based and you have to do nothing and just sit and see it. Because if you see down to the real world, you see a lot of companies having on-premise systems and they are not in the cloud. Right. So how do you expect them to adopt agents? And if they have an SAP in their office on premise and they're not willing to move to a cloud because it's actually costing them millions, right? So it's a big transition and it's not going to be overnight. It's going to take a while, definitely. And of course, it's the adoption. It will be faster probably than previous waves like the mobile or cloud and so on. It's definitely going to take a while, and the change and the change management, so the human resistance to the change, it's going to play.
Yeah, what's exciting I think about agents is it kind of meets humans where they are, which is being able to talk to somebody. Instead of having to learn a new software or a new system, you can just like talk to the AI like you would talk to anyone. Except the AI is like infinitely patient, knowledgeable, PhD level, can help you reason through stuff. I mean, already I'm talking to ChatGPT in the car now. I'll just kind of press the microphone button and I'll just have a conversation about something on my mind with the AI. And that's just incredible.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's amazing that the speed that this is actually taking and how fast is AI evolving. And I think the most impressive thing is when systems can actually reproduce themselves, right? So create new AI agents or even, create a whole company without actually having a human saying that you should create a company, right? To do this or that. I think this is the most exciting.
Yeah. What's your ultimate vision for Dost in the market? Kind of if you look out, 10 years and you're getting interviewed on CNBC and you're ringing the NASDAQ bell and you're so successful and you built everything you wanted to with Dost, like what does that look like? What's that vision for the future?
Yeah. So we see a global company, and that's what we are chasing, and that's what we are betting for. But basically, what I would say is we want to help finance teams to optimize their financial stack, also have optimization of their working capital, and all this, within this AI agent. So that at the end, they have their reports and they have their chats, to call it Dost chat, whatever, or actually we call it Ask AI. Maybe we have a new name in the future, but so you can actually have your insights on time, and you can take just AI will take really fast decisions for you on how to optimize and how to improve your working capital. That's how we're thinking. So we have this vision of, we call it a financial automation platform, and looking at this working capital optimization.
Amazing. And what's the origin of the word Dost? What does that mean?
So Dost, it comes from Urdu, which is the language in Pakistan, because Nakash, our CTO, he's originally from Pakistan, and it means friend. So when we were thinking about names, we were already thinking about obviously Nakash is a super freak with AI. So he's been with AI for quite a long time. You can follow him on LinkedIn because he's always on top of everything. So at that time, we were already thinking, well, we want to have a name, that it's short, can be spelled in any language, and people won't feel that AI is going to take their jobs. We were thinking like 4 years ago, right? So we said, okay, it's Dost, nice shit, and it's easy to spell in any language. That's the name, and that's the origin of it.
Love it. Wrap up with a rapid fire set of questions. Yeah. What's your go-to productivity hack, juggling all this stuff?
So I am very organized. So my calendar is divided with blocks, and I might be very into something, I don't know, customer calls or customer meetings. Then at 12, I have to stop because I will start something else, and I stop. So I'm very organized, and so I keep focusing.
So if there's something you want to do, like, hey, I need to work on this task, like I need to do some more customer discovery for this thing on our roadmap or whatever it is, you'll actually just block off time and be like, that's when I'm going to go do that.
Yes, and I only do that.
That's interesting. I'm starting to kind of get there, running 3 venture funds now inside this Team Ignite firm. And it's getting to the point where I'm like, okay, I got to block off stuff. If I really want to get stuff done, I either do it on the evenings or weekends, or I have to block it off during the week, because otherwise my calendar is completely packed. The demands on my time from founders, no offense, and people pitching me and the LPs, and I just literally have to block off time. Otherwise, I just won't get any time.
Yeah. No, it's the best way. So I would suggest maybe you block some time for pitches, some for your founders, and then your, let's say, internal work, if you like.
It's really the internal work, because it's always like, it's meetings, right? Founders, I love, doing the podcast, obviously, it helps the founders, but, it's getting that work done. Like, hey, it's important, but not urgent kind of work.
Yeah.
It's like, I need to go do this stuff for the fund or the firm. And I end up just doing it on the weekends because I just can't get to it Monday through Friday,
Yeah. No, I get that. It's difficult. Also, I use a lot the colors for the blocks. So I know how much time I am spending in specific.
I color code my calendar as well. Yeah, that's a good. For podcasts, it's purple. I don't know why. I like alliterations, I think. And then orange is Team Ignite because the flame, right? And then there's like green for home stuff. Yeah, stuff like that. Yeah, I do that too. What's the most surprising customer success story you've heard about Dost?
Well, we have heard a lot, but I think it was interesting because there was one customer that we got into the customer on a sales process, and they said, "Look, we have just signed a contract with another company." But it was interesting because they said, "We believe that it's not going to work out. So probably within 6 months' time, we're going to come back to you." And it happened. Right. So they came back and we started working, and they are just loving the product. And now we're actually with phase 2 rolling out in more areas in the organization and also other countries. And it's growing nicely. And the feedback is that one, right? So we couldn't find a software like yours, even, with the big corporate softwares out there. And sometimes they say, well, thanks for being here. Right. So that was a really nice story.
It's always amazing when you build something that people really want and they're so thankful to have it. That's like one of the best things about being in tech, I think, either being a product manager or a startup founder. It's like, oh, you're actually using this every day and love using it. Great. Makes your heart sing. What's one emerging technology in AI that excites you the most?
So what I was explaining before, right? So that the AI is able already to learn from itself and create new stuff without actually saying it. I think that's the most exciting thing that is coming out now.
Yeah, the recursive self-learning, the reasoning. Yeah, that's just so exciting. The O3 high model I've been messing around with it. It's insane.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah. And it keeps getting like 10x better every year. So I don't know what the limits are, but it seems that we're heading for fast takeoff. Do you know this concept, fast takeoff AI scenario? We thought it would be like a slow takeoff, kind of like Moore's Law, gets twice as good every year or two, but AI is getting like 5 to 10x better every year. It's kind of scary. I mean, we went from like scoring, like you see the benchmarks, scoring like 20% on a lot of the, PhD level benchmarks to, 87% better than humans. Domain specific humans, so PhD, like P-level people, if you ask them questions and you ask the AI questions, the AI gets them right at a larger rate than PhD level humans in pretty much all domains, not all domains, but most. What's one book or resource that had a major impact on your leadership style?
Well, it's not one of the common books that you read, or you get one of these lists for founders. It's a book called The Barcelona Way, but it's basically, so I'm from Barcelona, and here we had this brilliant coach, Josep Guardiola, and he just basically did something that no one else did, which
Damien
is
Hughes.
Damien Hughes. Yeah.
Okay.
The Barcelona Way. So basically, he analyzes the way, the whole team and culture was structured at the time of the coach, and just breaks down all the different phases and all the different aspects within culture, team, ceremonies, compensation, benefits, and so on. And it's very interesting to understand how this high performance team was structured and what were the methodologies that they used to actually get there.
Yeah, and this is based on the soccer team, so we would call it football team, FC Barcelona, and how they built that culture there. Really, really interesting. If you could solve any inefficiency in the world using AI, what would it be?
Well, I think I would love to have something, like a magic box that you say, I have these problems in my startup, just go and fix them. That would be my AI wish nowadays.
Yeah. For me, it's my inbox, categorizing and responding to my inbox. And I've been looking at startups in this space and trying out their product. I'm waiting for that reasoning agent to be able to have all the context window of everything I do, the hundreds of thousands of emails I've ever sent and documents I've read or created, and just know how to respond to things like an MBA level, chief of staff person, assistant. I'm waiting for that technology.
Okay, so that's interesting.
Yeah, that's the one thing I'd want. What's one piece of advice you would give to your younger self at the start of your career?
At the start of my career, probably I would say I spent a lot of time maybe trying to find my way. And then when I started to get into sales and learn about, selling and then later on business development, that's what I really like. So I think I would say just get into sales earlier.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it's hard to connect those dots, looking forward. Steve Jobs would say it's easier looking backwards. And as somebody who's been in sales and done a variety of things, I think every step of that journey, everybody's on their own journey, right? I usually tell people to try lots of things and quit lots of things. Just kind of keep trying, keep quitting. What's one startup outside of Dost that you think is doing groundbreaking work?
Well, I think these guys, DeepSeek, is amazing. Sometimes I still think that it's too good to be true, but yeah, I think it's
probably is. It's too good to be true. Yeah, like we did this with $5 million, and like, yeah, right, yeah. Or you copied OpenAI's model somehow. They kind of did a distributed like attack. Because if you ask DeepSeek, like, who are you? Who made you? It says OpenAI.
Okay.
Yes. So that's pretty interesting.
I didn't try it.
If you were in tech, what industry would you pursue?
Well, I mean, I like two things. So at some point in my life, I used to be a lifeguard at the beach, and I really liked I think it's probably it's not really cost. It's more like very professionalized Coast Guard, right? So that they go and save people in the sea and so on. That I really liked at some point. But I thought that this was really dangerous. But then there's something else that I like is actually food. So I love cooking, and I enjoy cooking for myself and for people. So I think cooking is something that I would like to do.
Interesting. I like eating, so I'll just eat the food that you cook. In one word, how would you describe the future of accounts payable?
I think it's bright. I think it's bright because it's rapidly changing. It's even though you see, and that's a funny thing because they say it's a crowded space, we are seeing it as a really, a blue ocean, right? Because to be honest, 9 out of 10 customers that we talk to, they have nothing. So that's a very bright future for us.
Yeah, a lot of automation and AI to be deployed inside of that workflow. How can folks get in touch with you and Dost online?
Well, with Dost, basically, you can go to our website, is dost.io, so DOST.io. And myself, I work with calls, to be honest, but actually, on LinkedIn, I used to check my LinkedIn messages or whatnot. I
just spent 2 hours at a jazz concert for my teenager responding to LinkedIn messages last night. I take him, and it's supposed to be, he's supposed to play for like 10 or 20 minutes, but the concert's like 2 hours long, and he goes on at the end.
Okay.
So not that I don't care for jazz music, I guess it's fine. So I'm just sitting there in the back of the theater, just responding to the LinkedIn messages. That's all I did for 2 hours.
Well, with a nice background music.
Yeah, it's like I had a soundtrack, and then I look up, I was like, oh yeah, my son's playing tenor sax. Okay, cool. I'll pay attention to this song. And then, okay, all right, back to like checking LinkedIn. So if you get a LinkedIn message from me, if you're still listening to this podcast, just know that I'm probably sitting in the back of some school auditorium listening to jazz music when I reply.
Very cool.
Well, thanks so much for coming on. It was good to catch up.
Yeah, thank you, Brian.